Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Lewis from Recycle Bicycle Sales. Here I have two different road bikes that are 10 years apart and a $5,500 difference between the two. There's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. Let's work out why there's such a price difference between the two. This DeRosa Protos is carbon galore. We have a carbon fiber frame, carbon fiber wheels, carbon fiber stem, handlebar, seat post, pretty much everything that can be carbon fiber is carbon fiber on this bike. It's all about being super lightweight. The group set that we have on this bike is the Dura-Ace 9050 group set, 9050. It's the Dura-Ace Di2 11-speed group set, but this would have been the absolute top of the line back in the day. I'm sure there's probably people watching this video that even had a photo on their wall, a poster on their wall of this, rather than Lamborghinis as well, especially if you're from Italy, because it's an Italian frame, it's beautiful. I keep saying it's incredibly lightweight, but it really is. This is the 2024 Giant TCR SL0. This one comes with hydraulic disc brakes. It comes with the brand new 12-speed Dura-Ace 9270 group set. It also has a power meter on this bike because everybody wants to know their power numbers when they're riding. We also have tubeless ready wheels, through axles. So we have thicker axles that go through the wheels. We've also got carbon fiber wheels. On this particular example, we even have carbon fiber spokes, as well as carbon fiber frame, bar, stem, seat post. All the bits that can be carbon are carbon as well. Let's start at the front of the bike. The first thing that I want to talk about is the tire and the wheel, and in general, that circle area at the front. Looking at tires, on a 2013 bike, it's really common to see perhaps a 23mm tire. When we're talking in millimeters, we're talking about the width of the tire from side to side, 23mm. On newer bikes, you might often find perhaps a 28mm or even a 32 perhaps if it's a more endurance style of bike. So wider tires is one part. While we're on the topic of tires, a lot of the time newer bikes will often come with tubeless rather than tubes or tubular. Tubeless is an awesome upgrade because it's a lot more comfortable, and it means that you can run a lower tire pressure, so you can have more grip and, like I just said, more comfort. But as well as that, it's good from a puncture protection side of things. If there was a thorn that was to go in and come back out, hopefully the sealant can clog up the hole from the inside rather than puncturing or piercing the tube inside the tire. While we're down here, let's keep looking at some other parts as well. We can look at the rim on both of these. You'll notice that both of these two examples here are actually carbon fiber. They both have, like I said, carbon fiber, but this one has obviously the braking track on the wheel here for the brakes that we'll talk about in a moment. Not on this one here, which means that the strength of this wheel here is able to just simply be stronger in general because they don't have to take into account the heat that's going to develop in this braking track. So a stiffer wheel can be good in the sense that it means that all that power you're pushing is going straight into the floor, but the potential downside of that is that it means that you're feeling every vibration through the road as well because you're getting more feedback through the road. That can be slightly offset by having a wider tire or perhaps even a tubeless tire like we were just talking about. So a slightly different wheel setup. This one also has carbon fiber spokes as well, so a bit more of a lightweight and a stiffer and a stronger wheel again. But let's be honest, if you're anything like 95% of cyclists, including myself, are you gonna notice these small upgrades? One of the biggest differences between older and newer style bikes is the braking system. We can look at rim brakes is what we have on this DeRosa, or disc brakes that we have on this Giant here. When we're talking about rim brakes, the brake pads are touching on to this part here we were talking about before called the braking track. The braking track can build up a lot of heat within a short sort of descent, and it can eventually begin to damage the actual wheel as well. Rim brakes are good in the way that they're really lightweight. Again, I keep saying that this is an incredibly lightweight bike, but then the downside is you don't get quite the same braking performance as you would on perhaps a disc brake. But again, one of the good reasons that people like to go for a rim brake is even from a price aspect as well. They tend to be a more affordable option this day and age. When we move across to talking about the disc brakes, if anything was to get worn out, rather than damaging the braking surface and wearing through that, we wear through this little part here called the brake rotor, which is so much easier to replace, and you don't have to throw the wheel into the bin once you're done with it. Even replacing brake pads as well is a nice easy task. Another good thing about disc brakes is that they work almost just as well in the wet as they do in the dry. Whereas with a rim brake, especially on a carbon wheel rim brake, you'd almost be better using a bar of soap as a brake pad. It's terrifying. if you're on a carbon wheel. From a maintenance point of view, taking care of your hydraulic disc brake system is a little bit more of a difficult task. It's perhaps something that you might have to take to your local bike shop to get repaired or bled or maintained, whereas adjusting a cable operated rim brake might be a little bit easier to do with some tools that you have at home. Another major difference between rim brakes and disc brakes is the actual axle, or perhaps you might call it the skewer that goes through the axle. On a rim brake, you're able to simply use a quick release and undo it just simply with your hand, unthread it, take the wheel off. Whereas with the disc brake, often you need a tool to take the wheel off. So that's a big difference. You have to add one more tool into your repair kit so that if you were to get a flat, you're not stranded on the side of the road. You're still able to get your wheel off because you have your tool. Comparing the cockpit between both of these bikes, I'm talking about the stem and the handlebar, and in general, the cable situation up the front. These two particular examples here are very similar. They both have a carbon fiber stem, a carbon fiber handlebar, and they have brake cables coming out of the side. This particular example has external DR2 wires as well. So truth be told, there's not a huge difference between these two. So both frames here are actually carbon fiber frames. You'll also know that these two frames are 10 years different. Having 10 years apart means that there's also 10 years worth of technological advances that have come along in that time. Some of the things that you'll notice with the newer frame as opposed to the older frame is that it might be a little bit stiffer perhaps. It might even be a little bit more compliant. I would like to hope that the carbon is stronger, being the fact that technology's come a little bit further along since then. Carbon could be laid up perhaps in a more lightweight material. Between the two frames, you might even notice that geometry has changed. Things like perhaps the height of the steerer tube here, perhaps the angle of the fork, we call that the rake, the amount that it's angled forwards or backwards. Is that better? Is that worse? I'm unsure, but given the fact that this is 10-ish years newer, maybe there's a reason why they've gone that way. Who knows? On both of these examples here, they both have the Dura-Ace Di2 group set. Dura-Ace is the top level group set made by a company called Shimano. So they are both the top level group set and they're the Di2 version, which is Shimano's way of saying electric gears. So we're comparing two top end components. When we look at this one here is the Dura-Ace 9000 group set. This one's technically called the 9050 because it has a Di2, nonetheless, the 9000 series. And the 9000 series has 11 gears on the back and it has 2 on the front. So it has 22 gears. Looking across to this one here, we have 2 at the front and then 12 at the back. So we have 24 gears. This one is called the Dura-Ace 9200 series. Technically it's called the 9270 because it has hydraulic disc brakes and Di2 gears, but it still comes under that 9200 family. The newer style is faster to shift, whereas this one is more of your, I'm just gonna say normal speed, given the fact that this is the latest and greatest. When tuning gears on the 12 speed, most of it is done through your mobile phone. There's an app called eTube, which is Shimano's mobile app. So that's one of the cool things with the latest and greatest technology is that you can adjust it yourself at home. Whereas when we look at the 11 speed group set, it's a little bit more difficult to tune, but we did a video just recently about how to tune your 11 speed Di2 gears. So you could jump across to that one. We've got the link in the description if you wanted to learn more. So yes, they are both of the top end group set, the Di2, the most amazing. However, there is a slight difference between the two of them. I've been saying all throughout this video that this bike here is an incredibly lightweight bike. We keep talking about the rim brakes, the lightweight carbon fiber frame, and all these beautiful things here. I'm gonna weigh this bike compared to the other bike there, but a quick disclaimer that I just wanna mention as well is we're comparing an extra large frame size to a small frame size. So there might be a bit of a discrepancy there, but nonetheless, let's see what 10 years difference between two different bikes looks like. What do we reckon? 6.67 kilos, I reckon that says, or thereabouts, close enough. Again, this one's a small frame size, so there's variables between this, but this one is, there you go, 6.58. So, okay, so it actually is lighter, which blows my mind because now we have the super powerful hydraulic disc brakes. We have all the latest and greatest stuff, wider tires, so there's more material there. To be honest, that actually surprises me a whole lot. I assumed that was gonna be a little bit heavier. I suppose that's what a super expensive bike gets you. It gets you a super lightweight bike as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you've learned something about old school and new school road bikes. Is the marketing worth the hype? I think it is. I went and bought a disc brake carbon road bike, but is it worth the money? For your first bike, I don't know. I often say to people, it's like an L-plater on a Ferrari. I think an L-plater needs to learn and needs to, you know, fall over trying to clip in and that kind of thing on a more entry-level road bike that isn't gonna break the bank before they then upgrade to the latest and greatest. So I've been riding bikes for many, many years, but if you're just looking to get into it, perhaps it might be more cost-effective to start with a rim brake bike and then see if you fall in love with it. I think that sums up the difference between the old school and the new school road bikes. Otherwise, I'm gonna say thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. If you reckon there's anything we missed, let us know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.